So this is just an answer to a question about how we duplicate items in Photoshop. So I'm just going to add a couple of different elements into this document. So we're going to go to File and Place Embedded, and we'll just grab an image from here and place that. We'll just leave this across to the left here. We'll come to our toolbar on the left and we'll create a shape. So if you click and hold, you'll see the different kinds of shapes you can make, and we'll grab the ellipse and we will then hold down Shift so that we can create a perfect circle. And at the moment this is a white circle, so I'm just going to make it a different color here just so that we can see it more clearly. And then we'll create some text as well. So I'll just drag out a text block here, and at the moment my text is white again, so I'm going to change that to black, and we'll just type in text. It's filled it with placeholder text there, so I just did Command and A or Control and A to select it all, and then I can delete it. I'm not too worried much about the alignment of the text, but I'm just going to increase the size of it here so that it fills that text box that I've made. So I've got these three elements here, and depending on how you have Photoshop set up, you will either have the selection tool set to auto select, which we can choose up at the top left here. So there's a checkbox for turning on auto select, and that will really define how you work. So I prefer to keep auto select off so that when I click anywhere, it doesn't automatically select where I'm clicking. It will actually select the layer that I have selected. So if you have a look to your layers panel over here, you see I have the text layer selected, and this is more just a habit from using older versions of Photoshop that I've gotten used to. If we select the ellipse here now, it will move the ellipse even though I'm not clicking on it. And then if I select the car layer here, it will move that. And basically this is nice. Sometimes turn off auto select, because then you're not moving something that you don't want to move if you've got complex layers set up. So to duplicate layers, there's a few different ways of doing it. The first way is in the layers panel. So if we come to our image here in the layers panel and I right click on it, we can go to duplicate layer, and that will duplicate that layer. Click OK, and it's going to make a copy of that layer. And I'll just use Command or Control on the PC and T, and we'll just scale that down. And we'll push that here. And there's another new element when you're working with scaling objects in some of the later versions of Photoshop, and that is the ability to turn off the anchor that's in the middle here. So we can actually turn off the anchor point in the middle of our image there, which sometimes can cause a little bit of confusion if you're trying to rotate things around a certain point. So that's the first way of making a duplicate, is to select the layer, right click on it, and then duplicate it. The other option that we have, if we hit enter to apply that scale change, is to just drag an object. So if I hold down the Command or Control key on the PC now, with auto select turned off, it will allow me to select, click and select on that layer. Now if I hold down the Alt or Option key on the keyboard, it's going to let me drag that layer out. So that's the second way of duplicating something. Okay. If we want to select more than one layer, then we can do that either in the layers panel. So if I want to select this orange circle across to the right and the text layer and duplicate those, I can hold down, I'm just going to check I've got the right ellipse layer, so this one on the right. I use the eyeballs quite often for turning things on and off just to kind of see what I'm working with. So turn that on, and if we hold down the Command key here on the Mac or Control on the PC, we can select the text and the ellipse at the same time. And now when we hold down Alt and drag them, it's going to make a duplicate of both of those layers. So we can duplicate more than one layer at once. And I'm going to go to Edit, Undo Move, and now we've just got these layers all selected independently, and no duplicates of these two layers across on the right hand side. The other way that we can select multiple layers here, so if I select this circle down here, hold down Command and click here, I've selected that. If I hold down Shift and Command now, it's going to allow me to select these two layers. So we can select those and hold down the Alt key and then duplicate these two layers down on the bottom left. So that's another way again of duplicating things. And again, you can see they're both selected in my layers panel. If I drag that down to the trash, we'll end up back where we were, just with these few different layers. And the other way of duplicating something is to duplicate it to a different document. So if I take this ellipse that I'm working with here, and I've got two documents open up at the top, if I click and hold and drag that up here and then down to the middle, it will drop that circle into place. If I drag from the layers panel, I can do the same thing. So if I grab my smaller car layer, so that's this layer on the bottom left here, if I click on the layers panel and drag it up to that new tab, keep it held down and then drop it, it's going to drop that into position as well. So we can select something here or multiple objects here and click and hold on them, and I can select all these layers and click, drag them up and then drop them back down, and we have all those layers now duplicated to this new document. So there's a few different ways of duplicating elements in Adobe Photoshop. I'm just going to come back here and we will delete all these layers except for my ellipse. And this kind of comes back to the anchor tool when we're working with Command and T or Control and T to transform. So if we come to free transform here and we move this across here, then we can hold down, then we can transform it like this. So it's moving around an angle there. And then once I've transformed that by a certain amount, if I hold down Shift, Alt, Command and T, it will allow me to duplicate multiple circles. So it's not really totally clear here. We'll just step back, and first of all we'll just make this circle a little smaller so we can see what's going on more clearly. So if I move the circle here and then Command and T or Control and T on the PC, move this to the middle, transform this a little bit so it's away from that first circle, hit enter, and then Shift, Alt, Command and T will allow me to duplicate that around the circle. So there's a few different ways of duplicating things in Adobe Photoshop, and as I said, it's just an answer to a question I had from one of the classes I'm teaching, so hopefully you find that useful. And if you have any questions about Photoshop or Final Cut Pro, then leave a comment below and let me know.